All right, so before we get started with this lesson, I just want to show you guys something. There is a sorting order here for these weighted joints, and the default selection makes for some really awkward sorting. It does this thing where it doesn't list the sequence correctly. So there are some sorting options over here, so you can play around with them. This is alphabetical, but the best option to pick is flat here, because that just lists them in the correct order. It goes in sequence. And the nice thing about this is that it keeps all the left on one side in sequence, and it works out fine. So just, you can play with these sorting orders so that you can click through a lot easier without having to go find the next number in the sequence in these huge list of skin joints. Let's get started with the fixes on this lip skin cluster. So I'm going to trigger the smile a little bit. This is what we have so far. I'm going to temporarily hide the joints. So if I select the mesh, go to the weight painting tool, and we're on the lip skin cluster. So before we go fixing those individual lip controls, so we get a nice nasolabial line, I'm going to do something that I thought of. And you see how deep this tuck is? Part of it is because the root skin cluster has quite a lot of influence there. Now, rather than go to these individual joints and have these guys individually take influence from this big crease that I want to get rid of, I'm going to go to the root skin cluster and release some of these points, and then let the system distribute them to what it wants to go to. With the operation set to add and my value set to -0.1, which is about good. And I think I'm going to go with a softer brush because I want to be careful this time. I don't want to maul the skinning like I did the other time. All right. And actually, let me go one brush up. All right, worst case scenario, we just come back and give it back to it. And I'm going to just brush over it once to subtract its influence. You see what's happening over there with that subtraction? I'm going to try it again. See? So it's taking away that deep tuck and it's redistributing them to these other ones. Let me try here. Yeah. And now let me smooth. I'm going to be very careful not to make big changes that completely ruin what we have. So we're going to be a lot more careful this time. And actually, to further go in that direction, I'm going to go with the least, the most Gaussian brush, or the softest, so that I don't make too many harsh changes. So I'm going to click again. Click. Okay, it's taking it away because that's a very deep tuck. Okay, so now it's time to smooth so we can get that nice line I showed you in my Morph Target smile. All right, let's see how deep it still is. I'm going to try to go in from the other side. Yeah, that's a lot of flesh that's tucked in there. It's not really that possible to do something like this with skin, at least not thick skin. So let's shave a little bit more. Let me see what it looks like when I smooth, and I'll determine whether or not I should keep going or go deal with the other issue before coming back. So it's looking a lot better. Down here, I'm going to also do a lot more subtraction here. and smoothing, because it does look like it's a lot more aggressive down here. And about a few lessons ago, either 2 or in the last lesson, I said something about it would be nice if this brush started working like a sculpting brush. And I realized it would be nice to have that option, but I don't want to take away this thing where it relies more on clicking, because it allows you to do things a little bit more judiciously rather than just doing one stroke and then pen pressure starts doing more than you want it to do. So for skinning, I think what they have is good, but it would be nice to be able to play around with another option. Let me take a look at it. It still feels fairly unrealistic. That is too sharp of a point, so I might want to keep going, but I want to concentrate the subtraction in this area to lose this sharp, because this is a very sharp transition. It doesn't feel flesh-like. So I'm going to get it until it's, yeah, about there. See, now it looks a little bit more like flesh. So this is one of those scenarios where I want to make the brush smaller. And down here too. Because it looks like really we're attacking only a handful of vertices, a row of them. Yeah, right there. And then smooth to get nice topology distribution. All right, so it's starting to look a lot better. Let me get the outskirts too. Improve that distribution. Yeah, I might need a lot more than I thought. So I'm going to reduce the brush again and individually do these subtractions. So that we get this thing closer. I'm looking for nice geometry distribution now. Okay, over here, it seems like I need to do an add. So I'm going to, yeah. So an add pulls it out. And back to a subtraction. All right. I'm going to make this maximum 0.1 so that I could just pull this dial back and forth and add and subtract. So we're slowly fixing this somewhat ridiculous tuck. I have to be very careful with the smoothing here. And I'm actually going to reduce this by a half. And I'll also max this out at 0.5 because now I'm making small movements and I don't want too much of a reaction to a click. Trying to polish this. All right, so now I'm going to test it out a little bit more now that we've done a little bit of cleanup over there. And it does look like there's going to be a lot more needed down here. But let me move this thing closer to its maximum. Yeah, so it's becoming a lot better. One thing I also should be checking frequently is what this thing is going to feel like with the jaw closed. Yeah. Okay. All right, let me polish this a lot more. Yeah, especially as we go closer to the chin. I don't want a sharp crease there, so I'm really going to push the smoothing there. Another thing I should also be worried about with this control is this one isn't complicated in that it also is responsible for sort of like funneling like this. So when I'm doing all this paint work, I want to make sure that when I go in the opposite direction for this funneled expression, I'm not ruining it completely. And also for a frown, I have to go in the opposite direction and see what the frown is yielding.